All right, today we're going to go over section 6.6, which is systems of inequalities. Okay, systems. Okay, systems of inequalities. Remember our rules for graphing inequalities? We've already gone over this before when we went over graphing a line. Told you this would all come up again as far as dotted line, when to use a solid line, and where we shade. The other thing to keep in mind is we will graph mostly in y equals mx plus b, where we graph the b first because that is where we begin on the y-axis, and then we will apply slope, okay? Now, they will just say to graph. You will have to know, since there's inequalities involved, that you have to use your dotted or solid line and all the shading. So first problem, I'm going to let you write down, and you need to make a graph. All right, so we're going to graph using y equals mx plus b. So the first question is, are they both in slope-intercept form? And the answer is yes here. Okay, so we have graphed inequalities before. We just haven't done two or more at a time. So now that's what this section's about, is more than two at a time. I'm not going to make you name out your M and your B. If you think it will be helpful, or you think it will help make clear for me, because you're going to be turning this in the computer, if you think it'll be clear for me for where you're starting, because if I have to guess, then it may not be real clear. So you may want to write out M and B. We start at 2. We go up to the right 1. Since it is less than, it is a dotted line. And be very careful with shading here. Less than, we shade below, but because I'm graphing more than one, I like to use just lines on this problem. And I go perpendicular to the line I just made. For the second one, I start at -1. I go down 1 to the right 2. Make it a dotted line, because it's greater than, there's no equal to. And greater than, we shade above. So again, I'm going to use lines, because in the end, where we form these boxes, I need to make this area from line to line darker, okay? Because, and so this is exactly how yours should look, okay? The reason for the darken and shading, so if I picked an ordered pair in this area, it will work for the second inequality, but not the first. If I pick one down here, it would work for the first, but not the second. Where if I pick an ordered pair in this darkened in area, it will make both inequalities true. So again, that's a good quiz question, is what does the darkened in area for a system of inequalities mean? It means any answer in that darkened in area will be a solution for the system. Now, how I would grade this. So thinking back, most of you are probably going to want to name M and B, because graphing these correctly will be 2 points. And if I have to estimate, like even for mine, it's kind of hard to see that this is actually at 2, where here I can see it's clearly at 2. I would hate for you to miss points, so you may want to go ahead and write M and B for each problem, just so it makes it very clear for me when grading it. So it's 2 points for plotting B and applying slope correctly. It is a point for using the correct line, whether it's solid or dotted. It's a point for shading correctly. So just for this one part, I'm up to 4 points. And I haven't even gotten to this line. That's another 4 points. And then I'll probably be 1 or 2 points for shading in here. So this one problem is 5 to 6 points, okay? Probably 6. So again, I would make sure to name M and B so it's very clear for me, since I'm grading it here rather than in the classroom. That way it's just easy for me to see what you intend for M and B to be. Okay, so number 2, let's look at this one. 2x plus y is less than or equal to 4. And 3x minus y is less than or equal to 1. And while you're writing that down, I'm going to go ahead and make my graph. So if you need to pause it to catch up with me, go ahead. Okay. All right, so what do you notice about this problem versus this one? Well, hopefully a lot of you are saying these aren't in slope-intercept form, and that's correct. So we have to get it in slope-intercept form first. This one's pretty easy. We subtract 2x. So y is less than or equal to negative 2x plus 4. Again, make sure your work is very clear for me to see and follow. For this one, though, I have to subtract 3x. Remember, this is a negative y is less than negative 3x plus 1. To get rid of that negative, we divide by negative 1. And remember, whenever we divide by negative with inequalities, it's going to make it flip. So y is greater than or equal to 3x minus 1. So now we have our two inequalities. Again, like I said, I think it will just be best and very clear between the two of us if you name the M and the B. Normally in class I wouldn't make you, but it's a lot easier to see your paper in class than it is on the computer as well, okay? All right, so for this first one, I'm going to start at 4. And I'm going to go, it's down, it's a negative 2, so we go down 2 to the right 1. Solid line and shade below. For the other one, we start at negative 1, go up 3 to the right 1, solid line, and shade above. So again, where the two overlap, I need to see it darkened in. And yes, I need to see all this shading. I need to see where you shaded for this line, so I need to see all that shading. I need to see where you shade for this line, and then I need it darkened in between. I don't want to just see the darkened in area. I want to see all the shading and all the shading, so I can make sure that you are shading correctly, okay? All right, for number 3, I'm going to write it out, and then I'm going to have you pause and see if we get the same answer. So 3x minus 2y is greater than 6, and 6x plus 3y is greater than 3, okay? So take that system. I want you to pause the video now, and we'll see if we get the same answer. Okay, I did my work. Because I knew it was going to take more than one step, so I brought the first one down here, second one down there. So I subtracted my 3x divided by negative 2. When I did so, it flipped my inequality, named my M and B. Again, moved the x, divided by what was in front of y. I did not divide by negative, so I did not need to flip my inequality. Again, named M and B. Graphed the first one, a negative 3. Up 3, right 2, dotted line, shade below. And start at 1, down to right 1, dotted line, shade above. Again, I should see all of this shading and then the darkened in area, okay? All right, so number 4 is a little different because we're gonna have 3. So I'm gonna give you a second to write those 3 down. And I'm going to make my graph. Again, if I get ahead of you, just press pause until you get caught up. Okay, so x, again, we should refer to our Hoivux. X, we know, is going to be a vertical line. Y is going to be a horizontal line, okay? And I need to solve this third one for y. Well, it's an easy step. Subtract x, name my M and my B. Okay, so for this first one, the x, I know it's a vertical line, so I go to where x is 1. I know it's less than or equal to, so it's a vertical line. And I'm just thinking here lightly, so I don't get too crazy here, shade to the left. For the y less than or equal to 3, it's a horizontal line and it's a solid one. And less than, we shade below. Sorry, vertical line, remember we always shade the way the arrow's pointing, so that's why I shaded to the left. Horizontal line, shade below. And then I start at -3, so right now I'm just in this area. -3, and I go down one to the right one, and I make this a dotted line. And shade above. And this is a little harder to see, but where the 3 overlap, which happens to be the triangle, is the answer. Make sure you go all the way from line to line. Don't let the axis be one of your border lines, okay? So that is your answer. Now, 90% of the time when you're asked to graph 3 lines, you will end up coloring inside the triangle. I'm saying 90% of the time because there is a 2% chance you won't, 10% chance you won't at times, okay? Number 5. Again, I'm going to let you try this one, and we'll see if we get the same answer. So x plus y is less than or equal to -4, and -x minus y is less than -3. So go ahead and pause the video, graph this one, we'll see if we get the same thing. Okay, hopefully when you graphed, or when you solved, you got this. So for the first line, this is what I got. For the second line, I named my M and my B in the second line. Before I even graph, I realized the slopes are the same, and we know when lines have the same slope, they're going to be parallel. So I went ahead and graphed the first one, which is down here, solid line, shade below. Graph the second one. So remember, when it overlaps and we mark that darkened area, it says it's a solution for both equations. Well, if they don't overlap, our answer is no solution. Now, if they're parallel, don't assume that the answer is no solution, because you may graph 2 lines, say, that look like this, and the shading for this one's this way and for the other one is this way, so the darkened in area is in between. So do not assume that just because you get parallel lines, it's no solution, because sometimes parallel lines, it may be in between as well, okay? All right, last one we are going to do is number 6, and it's if we have 4. So x is greater than or equal to -4. Write all these down, and then I'm gonna make this real simple. Y is less than or equal to 3, x is less than or equal to 1, and y is greater than or equal to -1. So go ahead and get those written down and make yourself a graph. Okay, again, if we follow Hoy Vux, I'm going to graph the 2 x's first, and x means they're vertical. They're all solid lines, so that makes it easy. So I go to where x is -4, make a vertical line, x is 1, and make a vertical line. I don't want to get to shading each line on when there's 4 because it gets really messy. So for the -4, we shade the way the arrow's pointing, because that's what we do for vertical lines, is to the right. And for 1, it's to the left. So I'm just going to make a little bit of shading for those 2 lines, which is in between. So see, again, 2 parallel lines shaded between. For the y, I go to where y is 3, and I'm going to go to where y is -1 and make horizontal lines, and I'm going to kind of do the same thing. So at 3, right here, it's less than, so it's shaded below. For -1, it's above. So I shade in between here for these 2, and so the rectangle is what we end up making darker, okay? So that is it. For your homework, I know I uploaded a little more. You only need to do numbers 1 through 9 for your homework. You do not need to do 10, 11, or 12, okay? Talk to you later.